Hello, everyone, ladies, gentlemen. This is the Treeo podcast alongside Mr. Curbs and special guests, Kieran and Josh. Welcome to episode 54. It's a pleasure to be here. Curbs, how we doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking. We have another versus episode. This is Capitalism versus Communism. Wow. It's intriguing.
A good thing the Treeo podcast is going to solve this complicated issue.
Yeah, so this will solve the world's debate. That's right.
Yes, this is the debate to end all debates, gentlemen. This is
So
where
let's
the final
introduce our
principle-
guests. First off, we have Kieran. Why don't you tell about
Hello,
yourself?
everyone. My name's Kieran. I'm 19. I'm a student, and I'm a communist. That's
Alright.
it.
Fantastic. And then we have Joshua.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joshua. I'm 16, and I'm a die-hard capitalist.
So you play adventure
Yes.
capitalist while he plays adventure communist.
Yeah, that's basically
Yes, I've got. Yes, I have. I'm level. I am on the leaderboards of adventure capitalist. I'm number 1, baby.
Wow.
it.
Incredible. Yes, incredible.
All right.
I
wow.
have bested all of the Facebook moms. Have beaten them.
All right. Well, why don't we talk about your expertise in each of your subjects? So what intrigues you so much about capitalism, Josh?
See, I've never told many people this, but I was not born in the United States. I was born in the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is an interesting situation politically because it presents itself as a constitutional democracy, but the issue is for the last 16 to 20 years, it's actually just been a ping pong ball between two socialist parties that propagate themselves as different parties. And it's gotten so bad that it's reached to a point where now the party that just got elected in 2020 is the National Christian People's Association Party, or the PLSP. The people, so sick and tired of the same policies, they literally let these guys in who have never gotten elected before, yet established in the 1950s.
Damn.
So that's just one of the. I stand as an individual who has lived under communism, under socialism, and under its policies because I lived in the Dominican Republic from my early childhood. I know what it's like. I remember it clear as day, and I know what me and my family had to go through and what they had to do to make it by. And from there, once I immigrated to the United States, I from there began learning more about different political ideologies. I spent times reading books, looking up at different history. I scoured across Wikipedia, which I know is not a credible source, but like, who the fuck cares? But it's mostly 99% credible. I make sure that all my sources are credible to an extent, and I make sure to stay away from .gov websites, because yeah, like the CIA has an unbiased opinion on political ideologies. That's just, yeah, well, that's just me
Yeah.
so far.
Nice.
I have an
I'm
aunt.
very
I have an aunt that lives in the Dominican. She says like she has to like go indoors by like 6 o'clock, or she's gonna get like shot or something.
My God.
Well, there's like, see, the Dominican Republic, unfortunately, is neighbors to a country that is very, very, very in a state of complete anarchy. Haiti, great country, beautiful. I have seen it before and I have visited. It is beautiful, but it is under complete political turmoil. Their government is absolutely ass, and there's basically gangs that control the streets. It's so bad that the chaos is spilling into the Dominican Republic. So yeah, I have no doubt. There was something personal for me. I remember a time where me and my mom told me to go play hide and go seek. The real reason was because there was a fight outside and there were bullets, and she wanted me to hide without telling me that there was actually gang fights happening outside the house.
Oh damn.
Wow.
Oh, no.
I was young, so she didn't want to. She wanted to spare me the bad.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not like, hey, Sonny, look at this gang fight.
Okay, bro. All right. Okay. Mr. Curb.
Whoa, his name is
You
Curbs.
normally, you normally have to pay to see gang fights, you know.
All right, bro. Mr. Curbs.
Mr.
Okay,
Cams.
so why don't we go back to Kieran?
Abs.
How did you get your thoughts on communism?
Let's go.
originated?
Okay, so like I've always kind of been into like history and politics from a young age, and when I was younger, I used to be like, because okay, so the political terms from America compared to to Europe are a bit different and stuff, but like I always was like kind of liberal and a bit centrist and I was never a conservative or anything. But then as I started learning more, becoming more interested in like actual politics, then I started gradually moving more towards social democracy. But that's still within like the current political system. And then slowly, after I started doing more and more research, watching videos, talking to people, then eventually I got like radicalized, I guess, into being a full-blown communist, and yeah, haven't returned since. I guess.
All right, that's nice. Cool.
Wow,
A
okay.
fellow enjoyer of history. Me likes very much.
And you said you were from Belgium, right?
Yep.
Belgium. I need a. Can you?
If you say something about waffles, I'm gonna smack the taste out of your mouth.
Hey, bro. Okay. If you're asking where Belgium is, it's next to the Netherlands and Germany.
Oh
Yeah,
wow,
and
he's
France.
an American that knows where European countries are.
Okay. Listen, I have over 2,000 hours on Hearts of Iron 4, so yes, I know
Oh,
everything.
I do too. I do
maps.
too.
Yeah,
I do
listen,
too.
bro. I played Kaiser Redux, CNO. I played
Yep.
My Little
War.
Pony.
No, we don't talk about
Yeah.
that one. I played Fury Redux, the Thousand Week Reich. I played all
Same.
of that. So yes, I like present me with a map. I will literally name you like every country.
I
in
know it's
all
like
of Europe, Asia,
somewhere near like
North
Germany
America,
or something.
some parts
Oh.
of South America. I know absolutely nothing about Africa except Ethiopia and Libya, and that's pretty much it.
What about Kenya?
I know where
Uganda.
South Africa is. It's the bottom one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Madagascar.
it's the bottom.
one.
Yeah, it's the one next to the Middle East, I think.
Yeah.
The one
Wait.
next to the Middle East. It's the one next to all the Muslims.
Oh yeah, I know. I can identify. I can show you Madagascar.
Oh,
That's where the lemurs
he'll
are.
pick up. He'll show us a picture of Sri Lanka. Watch.
Yeah.
It'll be a picture of Sri Lanka.
Isn't it right next to India?
Is this Canada? Shows a picture of fucking India.
So Josh,
They're both British. Who cares?
I've heard theories that you want to talk about Eastern Europe and why it's lacking behind so heavily in many ways to the Western Europe.
Here is what I want to discuss. One of the main content creators that I follow and listen very closely to, and someone that I have actually had personal interaction with, is a Georgian YouTuber by the name of Gatsu. His name is Gatsu. He is Georgian. He has lived all of his life in Georgia and has moved around to different places. He's lived in Canada. He's lived in Poland. He's friends with a couple of other geopolitical YouTubers that Geopold and Wow Mao. Those people, they've all come from different places. And Gatsu, in particular, is someone who also lived under a communist system and also experienced the aftermath of that communist system. Georgia is in a situation where they're extremely messed up. He explains in his videos that Georgia is basically in 4 pieces after 4 separate Russian invasions, and their government is still too corrupt and still recovering from communism that they can't deal with the internal issues that Russia has left behind when they gained independence. Because our dear friend, your boy, Stalin, realized that a good way to make sure that it would be hard to gain independence from the Caucasus is by making all the areas have certain levels of autonomy. It basically split Georgia up into 4 pieces that are all fighting because they all think they're the real Georgia. He goes on to explain that it was communism and commie-blocs that divided the people and resulted in a corrupted government that is unable to fully control his own country. And he's had situations where he's protested, he's gone to protests and has been tear gassed, and he hates his government, he loves his people and his country, but he can't stand the fact that it's just too paid in, bought for by everybody. Different other, like Armenia and Azerbaijan, they pay for various different oil rights from Georgia, which further the corruptions and makes it further worse for the government. And it's hard for the people to get their freedoms out because the government fully suppresses them and nobody notices because the Caucasus isn't really an important region, and he hates that.
How do you feel about
Alright.
this,
Yeah, I mean,
Kieran? I just want to hear your
Like
perspective.
I'm not the biggest expert on like the geopolitics of the Caucasus region, but I don't think that there's much for me to disagree with here. Like, yes, the dissolution of the Soviet Union had very horrible effects for all the new countries involved, including Georgia, and then the way Russia acts on the political stage with other nations is also very predatory, and they love to implement small puppet regimes, just like in Ukraine. They're also doing this in Georgia. So and that's not necessarily the immediate fault of communism, but that I would say that's more because of the capitalist implementation in these countries after the fall of the Soviet Union. But yeah.
Nope. Returned. Internet was crashed for a second there. Sorry.
Oh. Did you hear what I said?
How far did I get into what I was saying before I was cut out?
I think.
Oh, you were still talking. We moved. We didn't notice.
Oh, oops. Yeah, my internet just went on ass.
Oh shit.
I'm
So
the
you
one with
didn't
the
hear
sh-
anything that I said.
You
didn't hear
I didn't
anything.
say much.
You didn't hear anything of his counter
I'm
argument.
sorry, it's just
No,
crashed.
but I didn't say much really. So
No, that's actually a pretty good way of winning a debate. You just listen to the person's
I didn't mean to
argument.
DC, guys. I'm sorry. I did not mean to DC. I did not mean to DC. My internet just told me, no, you
I
will not have a
strategically
discussion.
shut off my.
No, guys, please.
or he's just lying and he did hear what I said, but
They've uncovered my
Can't lose if I don't know what you said.
They've uncovered my secrecy. They have told me.
and also the thing about Stalin is I'm very anti-Stalin, and his policies, the way he
He's
he
murdered.
ran the
so
Soviet
many.
Union.
Someone's obvious.
Yeah, I'm very anti-Stalin. I think if you don't approach Stalin with like a critical mind as a communist, then you're just being in bad faith and not
Funny thing.
materialistic.
He is actually from Georgia.
Yeah, he's
Georgian.
Georgian. Yeah.
That's funny. You know, there's this ongoing meme where Georgia's great plan is that they have an industry in creating dictators, because 4 of the most notorious dictators, Stalin, there was Stalin who went to the Soviet Union. There was another person, I believe, that he went to Iran. He messed up that country. Another dude from Georgia, he went to Turkey. Now Turkey's economic system is all messed up. And now some other person who went to Azerbaijan, and now Azerbaijan's all fucked up.
Something
I've
else.
never even heard of that
Great
last
plan
one.
of exporting
Azerbaijan.
dictators.
Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan is a neighboring country. They don't. Azerbaijan and Georgia don't like each other.
Silly American, you don't know your countries.
Oh please, silly American! You
I
don't
just-
also don't know your.
You should just shut off your Wi-Fi curves, and then you could strategically.
Yeah,
look dumb.
no, don't shit on me this entire podcast. Listen, all right, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mike. I don't have like I don't got like that extreme powerful 2040k gig of.
Dude, I'm using a thrift store mic.
Yo, let's pull up the image of Curbs' mic real quick for the audience.
No,
This is
Yeah,
Curbs'
yeah.
mic
Let the
setup
whole
right
world
now.
see. Whole world see,
Bro.
by the way, guys.
We missed the mic. We missed the mic part because you luckily weren't recording. Can't bring it back.
And now they look at it. Look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Unless
is
you're a Spotify listener,
professional-
now they're forced to go to the YouTube video.
professional podcaster, by the way, guys.
Mike
this
and a
guy,
cup.
this guy is a host.
All right,
And don't forget that. Don't forget that crucial piece that this guy is a host. Right, Mr. Curbs?
Yeah, I'm a host.
Professional.
Anyway,
Complete
let's-
professional, by the way, guys.
let's get
Professional man
back
setup.
let's get back to
Let's get back to Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
Okay. Azerbaijan.
Shout out to our Azerbaijani fans, man.
Yeah. Shout out to that one. Shout out to our.
We have a lot of German fans. I'm not sure if that's
German.
I'm not sure. Yeah, Germans. Like it's like 10% Germany.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, interesting. Shout out to that one Serbian. We know he's in there. He's
You
probably
know what? Because
streaming
I think
Serbia.
there's another Treeo podcast that's about like climate change, and it's a German podcast, and I think they just find our podcast instead.
Oh,
And
they're
like,
they're leeching. They're leeching.
climate change? What the fuck is this?
Leechers. A bunch of leechers. You see this, Kieran? They're a bunch of leeches. What the hell? They're a bunch of leeches.
I just want to bring up some of those leaders. So you said you don't like Stalin whatsoever. There.
No.
What are some other
that's
leaders
understandable.
that you praise
Okay,
and hate?
so the thing, like the Soviet Union is like the prime example of like communism trying to be implemented, but pretty much the only one that I like only a little bit is Lenin, because he did the revolution stuff, and he like brung it about, and he didn't really have a big chance to fully implement his ideas and recover from the turmoil of the Civil War and stuff, because he died.
Plus World War One too.
But,
Yeah, that was.
yeah.
I will say that I also do appreciate what Lenin was trying to do. Like, I could feel,
Mhm.
I could tell, bro was trying. Like there was genuine effort there for bro to
And
really
then the next guy had to fuck it
implement
up.
his vision, but
Yeah.
and he literally said he didn't want Stalin to be the next successor. But then
Oh
Stalin
yeah,
had
wasn't
more
it supposed to be
power.
like Trotsky and like
Yeah.
he killed him or
Trotsky.
something?
He groomed Trotsky to be the next.
What?
He basically
What?
taught. Okay, bro, shut up. All right, bro.
Yeah, but it was
Groomed
also
us
like
in
a
the
way
sense that
bigger.
he taught Trotsky how to do it
Yeah,
right.
and he was a
But
way big,
Lenin,
more involved than Stalin, and he was a
yeah,
Bolshevik for way longer.
he
Yeah.
understood
Yeah.
it. He got it. Stalin understood fear, and bro had a lot of power after the end of the Civil War
Yeah.
because of all of his work. So it was kind of it was unfortunately a failure.
But there was a lot
and
of like dirty
turmoil.
political games and
It's a messy situation where I feel like it would have been honestly better if Trotsky got
yeah,
in. 'Cause
definitely.
I feel like he would have actually known what he was doing. Stalin understood the fear and he understood how to suppress. Running a country, not so much. I guess because like he didn't really have any experience really.
The
all that
only
much.
achievement maybe that we can credit to Stalin is like defeating the Nazis, but I think like Trotsky would have been able to do the same, even better because
Trotsky was
of Stalin's purges.
Yes, Stalin's purges in particular were like really a kick in the foot because,
Yeah.
as it turns out, when you kill all of the competent people to run the
All of your
government,
generals.
Navy, Navy, Air Force, and Army,
Yeah.
the people left over not so good at fighting a war,
Yeah.
and not so good with leading an army, which is one of the main things that everybody forgets about when it comes to like, oh, what if the U.S. and the USSR fought each other? Oh, the USSR would be so powerful. Yeah, so powerful with their admirals and their generals who are like 25 years old. Good old guy come out of the woodworks. He's got like 6 months of experience. It's heartening because all of these men they fought hardly and bravely for their country. And Stalin was like, I don't like you. Off to the prisons you go because I don't like you. That's such a kick in the foot. I feel like because these guys they fought like animals to protect their country, animals. And Stalin was like, you looked at me funny. All right, time to get shot out back.
Yo, didn't he used to like use like OG Photoshop and like remove them from pictures?
Oh yeah, bro.
Yeah.
That was the original. Yeah, bro removed you from history. He purged you so hard.
like they were an X.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
That's basically what they
bro
were.
had that quick edit on lock.
I didn't know they did that back then.
Yeah, I think what they did was they first got like all of the documents related to your birth, to your like history, all of your Navy. If you're like in the military or in the government, they tracked all your government documents, tracked down all of the documents that proved that you existed, got rid of all of those. Then they found all the pictures and all the things, and they used the process where they like bleached you out in a sense and filmed in a new photo that removed you. Like they would either take an identical photo where you're not there anymore and use that as the real photo, or bleach that section of you out, take a photo of where you were, and then put that together like a Frankensteining and
Damn.
situation with photos. I looked into it and it's actually pretty complex for the time.
All that just to remove someone from a photo.
Yeah. That is like it's like basically you get reverse docs with extra steps. Yeah,
That's like beyond. That's like beyond petty.
Yeah. Stalin, if there's anything Stalin, it is beyond petty. I think, let me, on the topic of Stalin, a real funny incident that I know about, that I learned was in 1943, in a conference held, the first ever meeting of the Big Three, Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill, they came together, the Big Three lads, and at the time, Churchill was, I believe, 5'10". Stalin was 5'6". Roosevelt was 6'2".
He's in a wheelchair.
Yep. And despite the fact that he was in a wheelchair, Stalin and Roosevelt were eye to eye. And Roosevelt called Stalin "little squirt." I'm not even joking. Bro mogged Stalin right then and there. Now, ultimately, it was to be, break the tension, friendly little jab, break the ice, be nice. Like, hey there, man. How's it hanging? But
Or
yeah,
squirt.
that could have gone really badly, given how yeah, I don't think Stalin takes. I mean, he killed the guy just because he stopped clapping first. So I don't really know if that was the best course of action given his record when it comes to his image.
How did
How did I become a
Kieran?
communist?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
like I said, I gradually moved more and more to the left, from liberal to social democrat, and then I became radicalized just by mostly watching YouTube videos, but also reading books and
Oh, okay.
talking to people. That
Is there
stuff.
any specific events or things that?
There's not really like I've always been progressive, always been in my family too. So I guess that's like the only things that could maybe lead me there. But no one that I really know that's close that is a communist that made me a communist or anything. It's really just on my own and on my own research and on my own that I
Okay.
became a communist.
Mm.
So
When I'll just say this. When I moved to America, my mom brought me here with a book. It was in English. I didn't even know how to read it. I only knew Spanish. And at the time, I didn't know what this book was. I didn't know what it meant. I knew nothing. All right? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And over time, as I learned English by listening to other people speak it, by listening to videos, watching history channels, watching cartoons and such, I slowly began to learn more and more about what the book was. And over time, I learned a lot of articulate words from this book because it is an old book. This book is called The Constitution of the United States of America and the Selected Writings of the Founding Fathers. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I came
Yeah.
here. I
I
came
don't
here.
think
I
I
came
don't
here
think
ready.
I don't think I even I read that.
Yeah, because you
And
read a lot, Crips.
this book relates to all of the men and individuals who were part of the First and Second Continental Congress, and all of their selected writings, their beliefs, journals, and all of their personal beliefs and writings.
Good old Ben
That
Franklin.
book, which is yeah, we got Washington, Franklin, Jefferson, Monroe. We got all the boys in here, but all the lads, okay, all the gentlemen here. That book is 800 pages long. And this is just
But
the guys who created the United States, a tiny little country off of North America that was basically insignificant. And about one third of this book does relate to the ideas of the economy and how it needs to be responsible. Particularly with Monroe and Jefferson, who understood the economy better than most of the other founding fathers, they wrote into the system that the people need to be protected from the economy. That the people need to ensure that the government and the economy are entirely separate. That businesses, regardless of when and where they pop up and by who, need to be entirely separate from the government. That they need to watch each other and be natural adversaries to essentially be each other's wardens. The government steps in to make sure that the business doesn't get too laissez-faire and doesn't become corrupt, and the businesses make sure that the people have a way to fight back against the government by arming them, by giving them resources, by giving them money, and standing in as a guard to the people. That is a responsible capitalist system, said by James Monroe. And Thomas Jefferson furthers on Monroe's writings and speaks about how the people need to keep an eye on both. You gotta watch both. Thomas Jefferson was a Federalist. He believed in a strong government, but he understood that a government that was too strong could really do some big damage. And that is one of the reasons that led me down my political path. Because these guys who founded this tiny little country in the middle of nowhere, North America, created 800 pages worth of writing just off of democracy and capitalism. This doesn't include the dozens upon hundreds upon thousands upon tens of thousands of people that would go on to also write things that would further influence the United States, like Common Sense with Thomas Paine, Harriet Tubman, Uncle Tom's Cabin, a book so influential it outsold the Bible in the United States. Uncle Tom's Cabin literally outsold the Bible. that Uncle Tom's Cabin exposed the realities and harshness of slavery and exposed that this system is evil, immoral, and corrupt and undemocratic by nature. And it was so popular, it outsold the Bible and got the real abolitionist movement going in the United States. In the North, especially. It was made by a prohibition little white woman who was rich and powerful, and she was not like the people of the South. But she saw what was happening, and she was against it entirely. So she wrote that. She interviewed those who escaped from slavery and used their stories to write her book, which is a book that I have read and I find very interesting and influential.
You corrected them.
Come on, bro. I was doing my
but
rant.
that story is fantastic. It really is. I just want to point out John Jay, guys, the most underrated founding father, one of the framers of the Constitution. Can we just let's not forget about him.
Oh yeah, John Jay.
The good old John Jay, you know what I mean?
John Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But so we're slowly going into modern day. We know communist China. What do you guys think about the modern day communism?
They're not communist or socialist.
No, they're not. At this point, they're communists and everything in just name because communist China's economy is extremely laissez-faire capitalist. It is an unfortunate situation where they keep their currency poor, which screws over the people, but it gives them cheap labor, and thus everybody buys from them. Because if you make a book, like let's say you make a computer in the United States and ship that out and send it, that's gonna cost a lot more than if you made that same computer in China, because the people making the parts and components, they have rights, they need to get paid properly, they need health care, benefits, paid leave. If there's an injury or an accident, they have to account for that.
In China they have that too, but there's just way more laborers and the labor is cheaper.
Big people. Yeah, there's a large amount of population, which I feel like is a kind of double-edged sword, because if China loses that, it will cause them to collapse. Their economy is built slightly on stilts almost. That
I think people are overblowing that, but
don't they use like kids, or is that just like a stereotype?
I think that's mostly a stereotype. Honestly.
I
wouldn't be surprised if they did, but I don't think it's the bulk of their. I don't think so.
I think like 20 years ago that happened more probably, but as they're like super modern
they
now.
gradually
so I don't
moved
think,
out of
it. I don't think
step in the right
that's
direction.
more like countries like Bangladesh.
Kids don't know what to do. Like I think I'd rather hire an adult.
Yeah, and also
kids are cheap.
They're expendable though.
They won't. Whoa, okay, there, bro. Whoa.
Taking it back.
Clipped.
I think we found the real laissez-faire capitalist in the room. If you just go to, well, there, Henry Ford, calm down there, buddy.
Curbs, you might have to lose your
internet. Go back to your farm. Calm down there, little man. Did you guys watch that epic battles of history?
I was just thinking of that as soon as you said Henry Ford.
All right.
But yeah, there's just been
Marx
people
won that.
like Mao Zedong, people like Joseph Stalin. I found it hard to.
Well, I think Mao is a little bit more on the gray side than Stalin. His core principles and ideas were actually pretty good. Like Maoism as an ideology is like pretty good. His books are pretty good. They're pretty well coherent and good, easy to read for like the normal, especially like the average peasant in rural China.
There's the little red book of communism. I read some of that, and I
on
think
contradiction and stuff.
It was simple. It didn't go into crazy mannerisms or rants. I feel because Mao, a lot of the deaths on Mao's hands is an accident. It was a mistake, but it's still on his hands.
And some weren't on his hands even. Like there's a lot of people that say like millions and millions died in the Cultural Revolution, but those numbers are often way overblown. And there's a very good video. I'm gonna shout it out by I think it's One Dime, and the most were actually like. The most violence and most chaos was actually caused by the people themselves and a lack of organization and the spontaneity of the people that did like these radical things.
Yeah, but I think it's really
an unfortunate situation.
It's really unacceptable that they let that happen, and the fact that nobody did anything.
I think it's unacceptable he let that haircut happen.
There was basically just a result. It was just a result of like political struggle and.
Again, bad leadership led to infighting, warlords trying
Kind
to
of.
take their
But like
claims, and
for
it was an
China,
unfortunate situation.
for a country as big as China, even then, like millions of casualties is nothing new, right? Like before that, during
Yeah.
Imperial China, during the war with Japan, during there were like famines and floods every 20 years. There's millions there are hundreds of millions of people that live there, even a hundred years ago. So
China's
like
rivers are
if you
unshaped.
extrapolate those numbers, it's not crazy. And under capitalist nations like in India and stuff, way more people died, and there's no like light being shined on that, right? The famines in India.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I just think
that
they're
was
both
the-
unacceptable, really. I mean,
Yeah, of course,
it's
of
human
course.
cruelty.
And of course,
They should always be avoided.
famines are they really got screwed over with their placement. Also, a little country, a little island nation decided to have a little fun in India and
Yeah.
did some pretty not so nice things.
But
Not naming any names. British.
The famines in
I
India
don't like
were
British.
the biggest ones were mostly caused by the British, and so
Oh, yeah.
that
It's-
by
it's-
capitalism.
Shout out to Tread.
Literally 60 to 70% of the issues that are going on in the Middle East and in Asia happen along because the British
Yeah.
decided, I'm gonna take that. That's
Well,
fine
they
now."
didn't decide that. That's just how capitalism goes. That's just imperialism.
Imperialism and capitalism are not the same thing. And that's the
Imperialism is a
distinction I wish.
logical result of capitalism. It's just expanding of markets to export products and rivalries with other countries.
Imperialism is similar to laissez-faire economics. It is simply a way of extremism of capitalism, but that is not capitalism. Responsible capitalism does not lead to imperialism.
Well, okay. How do you define capitalism? That's probably like a very important
It's a system
thing.
it's a system usually closely ordained with the free market and the abilities of companies being separate and privately owned. Private ownership is one of the main centers of capitalism.
Mhm.
When
That's a pretty good definition.
I feel like one of the main issues that happens with capitalism is when it gets involved in the government. That's when the shit starts hitting the fan. Capitalism and the government, the businesses and the government need to stay apart, not connected in any way, shape, or form. They're
Well, you
two
understand that's
bodies
impossible, right?
that
That's
it's not
there's
impossible.
there's
I don't
always
feel
a
that way.
tendency in capitalism because of competition and the profit motive for companies to influence policy in their favor. It's just a logical conclusion because they have to do that to compete with each other and to keep their profits. That's always gonna. It's not always gonna happen, but there's always gonna be the tendency always.
That is where the government and the people need to step in and stop that. A responsible government
Sure,
needs to be willing
but
to see that fool's gold, that money, and say no.
That's
Because then
sure. But that
people
doesn't mean
need
that
to
the
be the ones
tendency
to
isn't
look at the
there.
government.
That doesn't mean
Yes.
that the tendency is there. And
But but that tendency doesn't have to exist. That tendency is
Well-
there, yes, but it doesn't have to be. The people can step in.
it doesn't have to move in that direction. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but as we get more and more technologically advanced and the ways that people can influence government and do corruption and all that stuff and form monopolies and cartels, it's just gonna be more and more impossible to prevent that kind of things from happening. So, and as we already have seen, basically like some sectors in the economy are basically monopolies in practice, like oligopolies and stuff. Like a lot of food, especially in the US, like a lot of food companies, they just make the same products. They collude behind the scenes, set prices. Same with medicine, heavy industry. It's just all, yeah. And that's just a logical conclusion of capitalism. That's always going to happen because that tendency is always going to be there. It's inherent in the system. That's why it's not one of the reasons why it's not sustainable.
It is inherited, but the fact that
say,
yeah, go on, Josh. You got this.
it is a system. Oh, sorry. That even though you are correct in that statement, it doesn't mean that is forever or that cannot be stopped. One of the best examples is a man that we all know and we all love, a guy whose face got plastered on a mountain. It's Teddy Roosevelt. A man who took that same dogged justice he enacted on the wild streets of law when he was a sheriff, and the same dogged justice he enacted on the streets and front lines as a soldier, did he go to war with monopolies. He enacted
Sure.
multiple laws of reforms that helped prevent monopolying and prevented that sort of situation. We can have that again. All it needs is a government
Sure.
that's responsible and a people willing to demand that responsibility, not ask for it. We pay our taxes, and it is our right to tell the government what we want because that's their job.
Sure, but what? Okay, so in the US, that's like a very extreme case of how corrupted the politics on both sides, Democrat and Republican, they are, by big business and by investors. Both sides of the political spectrum in the US are in the pockets of big business. They protect business interests, and they're not there to protect the working class and working people and the average citizen of the US. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that honestly that might be true because I'm pretty sure there's been like multiple laws to like try to like ban vapes and stuff, but like the vape industry like is like using money to like manipulate that, like to make sure that it doesn't become a law.
There are, however, constitutional amendments and additives to the Constitution that, and certain laws that have been made to ensure that there's always a way back. In the 1900s, when Teddy Roosevelt came into power, America was in a really bad economic situation with monopolies. It was on the precipice almost. People were treated terribly.
Yeah,
I
sure.
will say that. That is the truth. I'm not denying that. But it was through his hard work, and it was through his complete unwillingness and uncompromising stature that allowed him to really rein that in.
Sure.
And one of the ways that he was able to get that was through the people. Us, you and me, Joe Schmoes, like us, who are willing to demand that the government do what needs to be done. We have to be the ones to rein in both sides because in America, especially, our voices will be heard. Doesn't matter.
Well, I wouldn't say in America especially, but because democracy over there is very flawed, but
our democracy has allowed us to withstand the most devastating economic and political devastations
well,
in
I
the
wouldn't say
history of
that.
the world. The Great Depression, a system that literally destroyed our economy.
Yeah,
yet
that's
we
also
beat that
inherent to
back
capitalism.
by the 40s and 50s.
It's a negative thing that even happened. That's not something to brag about. That you were able to beat the Great Depression.
The Great Depression. Listen.
That's another thing that's inherent to capitalism is frequent economic crises, just like the Great Depression, that just crash entire economies. That's always inherent. That's always has been in capitalism. Always will be. Yes, it is.
Capitalism. It is inherent.
But what is
to
responsible capitalism? No, that's
it is a system. I've said it. It is a system where a government is held responsible.
Okay, so then we always have we always had laissez-faire capitalism then? Because crises have always happened.
Yes, but the people bring it back. The people.
That's not true. That's just economics. That crises just solve themselves eventually.
No,
that's just
crises do not solve themselves. It is through the hard work of the people and through reforms in the government that are able to fix those. It is through reforms.
That's all despite capitalism. That's all not because of it. Sure, I'm a proponent of democracy, and our current democracy is not fully democratic. We're barely even could be called a democracy in Europe and in America because of the interests of capital of big business.
Democracy does not get destroyed by capital. That is a fact.
Capitalism is literally inherently anti not democratic.
Dude,
you understand that, right? It's just like countries
tiny
privately.
Nation.
Capital is also privately owned. It's not controlled democratically. That's like inherently the case.
Democracy.
Competition and profits incentive and the need to compete with other companies and other actors in the economy, it is despite democracy. It goes against democracy.
It also helps.
It doesn't care if
something is and prevents the workers from being able to be completely controlled. Free market allows those who are able to create the product better than competitors to rise up. That can't happen in a system that is socialist.
Sure can.
Because you're fighting against the government to try and make the same product. Free market has helped raise millions out of poverty. And
that's a stupid argument. Fucking feudalism has also raised millions of people out of poverty, and
feudalism is not capitalism.
You're not gonna. Sure, but I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that your argument is moot because feudalism has also fed people, and that doesn't mean feudalism is the best system either. That's feudalism a bad argument.
Was a Middle Age century. Was developed in the Middle Ages, and no, it really did not. It was essentially slavery.
Compared to the society before, yes, it has. No, before feudalism, then there was slavery, like actual
feudalism
slavery.
Was a developed system as a result of the Dark Ages, when everything shut down, when trade stopped, when people were delegated to city-states and were not able to properly communicate with each other.
That's not true. That's not how the Middle Ages went at all. Like, there was plenty of trade in the Middle Ages.
Not to a degree that allowed for proper trade and commerce on an international scale.
Sure, I'm not saying that, but there was trade in the Dark
Ages. Hence the name, the Dark Ages.
Okay, but what I'm saying, I'm comparing the Dark Ages to before the Dark Ages, which was slave society. And compared to the slave society, a lot of people were better off under feudalism. That doesn't mean that feudalism is a better system. Just like compared to feudalism, a lot of people are better off under capitalism. Doesn't mean that capitalism is the best system, right?
Your argument, people are better under a capitalist system.
Yeah, I'm saying human. That's just basic Marxism, bro. Human development goes in stages. Has gone in stages, and that's Marx has said this since 1860.
But
first there was slave society, then there was feudalism, then capitalism, which we live under now, and then we were supposed to go into socialism. And just like capitalism was achieved via revolutions and liberal revolutions and reform, so the socialism need to be achieved via revolution and overthrow of the current political system, just like it went with capitalism.
Well, I'll say this here right now. My country was socialist, and I didn't feel.
Yeah, I wanted to get that. I wanted to get that. How the is the Dominican Republic socialist or communist
not
or socialist
now? But let me tell you, for the last here is in 2020 they changed their politics system. Okay, I keep a close eye on this because I am Dominican. I've lived in the Dominican Republic, and I want to keep a close eye on my own country. For around 16 years, the same government was elected each and every time. And that was, let me see here, the PRD, known as, let me, what's up? Government, there we go. The PRD, the People's Revolutionary Government. And it was a socialist government developed in Cuba in the 1950s. And then went to the Dominican Republic by the 1960s.
Okay, wait, what was the party called? PRD, People's...
Politics.
Because I'm not, PRD. Like, as I said before, I'm not the biggest expert in...
It's called the Dominican Revolutionary Party.
Yeah.
That's the name. Sorry, it was...
They're third way. They're not socialist. Or, like, okay, we have to, like, distinguish between socialists, because like in a lot of like colloquial terms, socialism is like social democracy is referred to as socialism, especially like in America.
I know that.
I know, but I want to know that. I want to say that sometimes it's difficult, especially when talking to Americans. No hate, to really like know which one they're talking about and to get on the same page, right? But they're by far not communist or revolutionary or also the thing you need to understand is like participating in and winning parliamentary party elections, that's like inherently not revolutionary, right? Sure, you can participate, but like actually winning and then going into power, that's not revolutionary. That's not what I and communists are support, right? So
you don't support,
and I don't think they're even like radically socialist. Like, did you have worker co-ops in the Dominican Republic? Did you have like workers' democracy?
No. In the Dominican Republic was that this government, that it was a constant ping pong situation between the PRD and the PLD. The PLD is the Dominican Liberation Party, and they are also somewhat socialist.
They're third way.
It says socialist. I'm sorry to say.
Where does it say so? What's your source for that?
I'm looking right now at the Global Edge.
Even then, name me a policy of them that they implemented that's like actually socialist.
Their policies, as I oversee here, is that they did implement various different social democracy types of situations.
Okay, but I'm not a social democrat, so.
In 2004. Okay. They came into power in 2004. At the time, the Dominican Republic was already at a bad situation, and the resulting of their policies had led to a furthering devaluation of their peso and led to a devaluation of the money and currency.
Which policies? Give me an example of policy, and I'll tell you if like they're actually socialist or just social democrat or even like leftist or protectionist, whatever.
I remember correctly.
Because there's private property in the Dominican Republic. There are markets. There's a gigantic private sector. There's no planned economy. There's no workers' democracy. There's no workers' councils. There's nothing that like is actually socialist and communist, right?
Not anymore. Not anymore. Gradually.
Were these things ever implemented in Dominican Republic?
Yes, there were attempts.
I find that hard to believe. If you can find them, fine, but I don't think
it's mainly in the 90s.
There's ever been a People's Republic of Dominica. Can I like say something about DRP?
Yeah, sure.
Like, it says here that it was founded by Juan Bosch, who was at one point in Cuba, but was he exiled from Cuba? It says here Bosch heavily sympathized with leftist ideas, but he was always denied any communist affiliation.
With his situation, he was established in Cuba, but eventually left. He wasn't exiled, but he did leave because he split off from the main.
Yeah, because he wasn't a communist. And it also says here that they're traditionally a left-of-center party and social democratic in nature, but the party has shifted since 2000s toward a political center. So.
Not what I saw. Not what I saw with my very own eyes.
I find it hard to believe that a party that is not like in any way, shape, or form overtly communist, that they implemented policies like workers' democracy and the abolition of private property and markets and stuff.
They did not implement the abolition of private property.
But any of those. I don't think Dominican Republic has ever been a socialist country or like even tried to implement socialism, which is the abolition of private property and markets and workers' councils and stuff, like Cuba. Kind of.
Cuba is an interesting situation. I like mainly. Yeah, I'm just shifting through notes at this point.
If you don't like wanna, it doesn't mind it, but I don't mind if we go to another topic or anything. But
okay, sorry.
I just don't think. Yeah, that's fine.
Country, but yeah, we can move on if it's taking too much time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the communist and the capitalist.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what we've had for the past hour.
So,
okay.
What other topics are there for us to? Questions you have, I guess. Maybe we should try to like give the pros about the system we oppose.
Oh yeah, that's
interesting.
Cool. I mean, you could do that. Yeah, I mean that would be interesting.
Okay.
Right. So who's gonna begin?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me say one of the men that I respect is Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh, in my opinion, he did it the best. I respect this man very much. His literature and his writings are very intellectually positive and are very intelligent. He was a very philosophical individual, a very spiritual being. He saw the world around him, and he saw the writings of Mao, Marx. He listened to different beliefs, and he wasn't deadly opposed to other beliefs either. He didn't shut down those who disagreed with him, which I find very respectable, and I feel like I have a lot of respect and sympathy for him because of that.
All right.
I feel very happy for him. He is someone that I respect, despite his beliefs and despite my counter beliefs. I respect him a lot.
All right, so I guess
all my homies love Ho Chi Minh.
but do you have anything to say like about the like actual communist ideology?
I feel as if that it was, in my opinion, developed during a time of great struggle and hardship. Russia was going through it. And our friend, dear Karl Marx, a German man who traveled through Russia, he saw that. He saw the people suffering in the villages and living in near Victorian style architecture and times while the rest of the world was industrializing. And he developed a system where he felt like it was unfair. And it was unfair, in my opinion, that the people were stuck, unable to rise and pick themselves up by the thumb of authoritarianism and imperialism, monarchism. The Romanov family, I don't like what happened to them, especially what they did, how they shot the Alexei and his father, and even the dog. Like shooting the dog, are you kidding me? But I can understand the anger that the people felt because, and Karl Marx was a rallying voice. He told the people that this didn't have to be their future. And through his system, he could create a better life for the individual, the common Joe who was stuck as a serf, basically, while the Romanovs and the Romanov family profited off of their backs. I can understand why the people followed communism, and I can see why it was very attractive to them.
I think I have to heavily disagree.
Gave them an answer.
I have to heavily disagree with that explanation of how things went down. Marx wasn't a critic of feudalism, and of course he was a critic of it, but his main works were criticizing capitalism. And capitalism, by the time, especially at the time of Marx, had not really developed in the biggest part of Russia yet. Where it had been developing was Western Europe and the UK and France and also Germany to a certain extent. So if you actually read what Marx wrote, he was mostly criticizing that and then predicting and explaining how the capitalist system would lead to inequality and lead to problems. And even at his time, it was just at the beginning stages of industrialism and the beginning stages of developing. It hadn't even there weren't really any big monopolies yet. There weren't any big market problems or big upheaval with the capitalist system like that. It was just in its beginning phase, and back then he already could predict that just by the basic ways of how the laws and the system functioned and the rules, that it just goes wrong for a certain amount of people in society and a certain class, e.g. the proletariat. So that's his main proposal. That's also why originally his theory and prediction was that the revolutions would come from the Western countries, the countries to industrialize first, because they would be able to grow the proletariat and the fastest and first. They would have the biggest proletariat, and then those would form a revolution, which kind of happened, but he kind of miscalculated in the fact that, of course, with industrialization and capitalism comes a lot of money and power and might, and which eventually leads to imperialism and the expansion of markets. And in that way, you can protect your country from a socialist revolution, which, like it happened in France, like it happened in Germany after the First World War, like it happened in a lot of Western European countries. So yeah,
Germany's revolution, or attempted revolution, was a result that it was completely annihilated by the other powers with its unfair treaty. The Treaty of Versailles was, in my opinion, disgusting because it was designed to inflict as much damage as physically possible to Germany in all physical ways and nationally humiliate it in every single way, shape, and form.
I disagree again. I disagree.
It was made by the British and the French.
The Treaty of Versailles was very mild. Was a very mild treaty for the time being. For example, the Treaty of Trianon on Austria-Hungary and Hungary, that treaty was way harsher. And on the Ottomans, those countries stopped existing just because of that treaty, right? Meanwhile, Germany lost only a couple percentages of land to Poland and other countries, and they have to become a democracy and depose their king. So that's not really, and that's a big misconception a lot of people make, and I used to make too.
The Treaty of Versailles, especially when it came to the economic situation, destroyed Germany's economy.
But I think
just prevented it from rising up.
Yeah, sure. But they couldn't predict that the crash of the economy 10 years later, right, in the 30s.
Wilson gave his points, and he presented them with a solution that would have not resulted in the same level of destruction to all of Europe that happened in post-war Europe. But they rejected it and only ever went with the League of Nations, which then fell through early in 1939. I felt like the League of Nations was entirely very incompetent, and I feel like the United Nations is also very incompetent.
It completely failed in its goal. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, because unfortunately, national socialism that happened. I know the distinction between national socialism and the distinction between regular socialism and the distinction between that and fascism. Don't worry, I'm not that stupid.
All right.
Don't worry. I understand.
Really American.
Yeah.
Okay, bro. You two are also like stupid, and I can tell because I'm also stupid, and I can tell.
Yeah, let's not call anybody stupid here. Let's just be nice.
Oh, I get called stupid. It's funny. All right.
Okay, but I guess I haven't said what I like about capitalism yet and its system, or like the pros, I guess. And a very big pro is it heavily encourages economical growth and I guess also expansion of markets eventually, which is economical growth, which is a pro and a con in itself, because if you were like in the 1800s and you didn't have very high technology and a lot of factories and a lot of people in your country, then of course economic growth is great. You produce more, you can feed more, right? But right now we're producing too much, so economical growth is only a negative, except for the fact that it just prevents an economical collapse.
All of this about the Industrial Revolution, you know of Ted Kaczynski, right? I would assume. What do you think about his writings and his teachings? What do you think about it?
Is that the pipe bomber?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the UNA bomber, the University
pretty cringe.
and airline bomber.
Pretty cringe.
I feel like
there's only some. There's like 20% of what he wrote is like he's like actually like he's got something, but that's mostly just common sense and just already like everyone knows that, like no shit, the technology has bad sides. No shit, industrialism comes with bad negatives.
His dislike for the Industrial Revolution and his dislike for its aspects is valid. Using bombs to kill people.
Yeah.
That's where I stopped subscribing to this guy.
I think
where like,
there's also a very good video by what's his name, Wendigoon, about his entire.
I love Wendigoon. I love when he posts,
me too.
Like,
that's
videos.
His video on the Unabomber is very good, really good. It's 3.5 hours long.
Oh yeah, I watched that video and I loved it.
But it's really good.
You gotta, I know you. I know our dear friend Wendigoon.
He like completely explains his entire life, and then after he completely dissects all of his writings and gives a critical view, and I think he's right about most of it.
So it's so interesting to dissect and look into his writings. His journals are very analytical, in a sense that he treated these bombings like experiments. He numbered them. He numbered the people. And he had certain variables like this was the intended target, this was not the intended target, I could not get the package in the necessary location. He was very analytical and methodical, and that just showed his intelligence, and that just always scared me to think, it's in the mind of this man who, you know what he went through at Harvard, right? What he underwent. That one was just disgusting. I feel, it most definitely had a large impact on his mental psyche. He was already suffering from withdrawal and the fact that he was socially inept, and that easily the belittling of his ideas and beliefs easily caused him to harden into a person that is not willing to let other people in, which festered into the Unabomber. I feel like he had nowhere to put his emotions, no one to talk to, no one he trusted really anymore after after he was experimented on. How they belittled him, how they went and literally interrogated him, and that would be completely not allowed today. But in the 1940s and 50s, that was completely unethical.
Yep.
I stand to believe completely unethical.
No, but I guess I could like explain a bit more, like in detail, what actually it is, which socialism and communism is.
It's like
Has there any been any like communist leaders that weren't like dictators?
Okay. Like, how do you define dictator?
Somebody who
like somebody
autocratic or
authoritarian.
Yeah, like
autocratic.
They don't allow
anyone someone who just likes opposition.
Okay, what you have to understand is what you have to understand is actual socialist and communist people that come to power, they have to come to power via revolution, and which is a violent overthrow of the current political system.
I feel like that's somewhat of a weakness of communism.
Yeah, but the thing is, it was the exact same way for liberal and capitalist leaders, right? In the 18th century, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, all those places came from revolution.
The American Revolution was a direct
sure, but it also was a liberal. It also was a liberal revolution against a totalitarian and a country with different mode of organization and different values and that didn't align with liberalism as an ideology, right?
Yeah.
It happened all over Europe in the 18th century, everywhere. And at first, those people were also pretty autocratic. And especially when they failed and they tried to hold on to power and things were going bad, they always went to autocratic measures, just like the way it happened in China and the USSR for socialist revolutions. Revolutions are always authoritarian.
You can do a lot with. I remember this quote in particular that I stand by a lot. You can do a lot with a bayonet, but you can't sit on it. Revolutions like that are unsustainable for longevity. For the longevity of a nation.
Our current world was built on those kinds of revolutions.
The difference is that the revolutions under communist leaders, they utilize fear. Liberal revolutions utilize different methods. It is literally what Stalin did. You said something wrong.
Stalin wasn't a revolutionary. Stalin didn't do any revolution.
And same was for Mao. Those who did not believe with his beliefs were not given a voice. They had no voice. The opposition had no voice. That is one of my main issues.
The same was the under Napoleon. Did anyone have a voice under the autocratic French Revolution leaders? Did anyone have a voice? No. It was always violence, which then came about policy, which then was implemented successfully, and slowly society became more democratic between.
That's not democracy.
What's it called?
That's not liberalism.
That's how liberalism came to be. Without that, we would still be living under kings and feudalism.
Ew.
The American Revolution never, well, to an extent. I mean, the Founding Fathers did say from the very beginning, all men are created equal. It was unfortunately those who interpreted after.
But there was a bunch of slavery, super high inequality, right?
Yes, and that was the idiocy of people. That's not the response.
That was never democratically voted on to keep slavery. It was just already in place and was just never abolished. Eventually,
yeah, because I think it helped the economy.
And that was the thing of its time.
No, I think like they kind of wanted to abolish it, but like because it like was helping the economy so much.
Yeah,
like
the capitalist market economy. Yeah, that's another. It was, what's it called? What's the word called? It was not because of capitalism, but it was despite capitalism that slavery got abolished. Right. The whole reason for the Civil War was market mechanisms and the fact that these people in the South were reliant on slavery and weren't able to like compete and pay if they couldn't have slaves, right? So they had revolution.
The industrialized North.
Because I'm pretty sure like the cotton market was like
but that is market mechanisms, right? And that's inherent to capitalism. Things that market interests that go oppose each other to the point where there's war, a civil war.
Slavery in on itself has existed since all throughout human history.
Sorry?
It has existed before democracy.
What did you say in the beginning?
Slavery existed.
Oh, slavery. Yeah, sure.
Human history, even before any ideology.
Sure. But in every society, markets have existed, and that's the thing. What's unique about socialism and communism is that it's the abolition of markets and those market mechanisms that come with it, and the negative effects that come from that.
That
which includes
the individual's ability to rise up into the market. The free economy has allowed. I'm not this. So has many others that I know.
Has not. It hasn't. It has led to for a lot of people for better living conditions, right? But that doesn't mean that it's going to be a system that's going to be in place forever. Just because it was good in the past doesn't mean that it can't go away. Just like feudalism was compared to the slave society before.
Not just better living conditions, but also the ability to rise in the world, to pull up by your own bootstraps. That is a saying that is on my father's side. My ancestry can be traced back to Ireland and Hungary. On my father's side, my people came with nothing. And it was through their hard work under that capitalist system that they got a good home, that they got a sustainable living, that they got the freedom that they wanted, and that they got to live how they wished.
But can you say the same thing about the poor Ugandan farmer, or the Bangladeshi child in the clothes factory, of which there are hundreds of millions? Well, how are these people gonna pull themselves up from their bootstraps? Why are they not able to thrive and be healthy and
due to their governments not having the ability. Africa is one of the richest and filled with natural resources. The problem is that it is filled with bloody revolutionary civil wars and violence.
Why?
Because the governments are not properly created and are easily filled with corruption.
Why?
Because
why is there so much corruption?
Because the maps and borders drawn by the European countries are not based off of ethnicity.
That doesn't help, but
they were based
that's
off
not
of
the main reason.
Resources.
No, that's not the main reason.
That is literally the main reason.
That is a reason for a lot of conflict. That is
when
a lot of
when Europe left.
Oh, I don't understand. That is the reason for a lot of conflict and wars and struggle. But that is not the reason why Africa is still poor today.
When Europe left, let me say this.
But I know what you're gonna say.
They drew the map and
lines, and those lines didn't coincide with the ethnic borders, ethnic group, and languages.
Exactly. And that's what leads to ethnic cleansing.
I understand. That's what I understand. But that's not the reason why Africa is poor today.
Why is it poor today?
The reason is market mechanisms. Because dictators and leaders.
Can you explain this?
Literally,
how you see it. Let me see it. How you see it.
The basic principle of market mechanisms is the people can own private property and have businesses and trade and that from that comes market mechanisms, and the fact that you need to compete with other businesses for profit, otherwise you get outcompeted and you can't you get what I'm saying. You get outcompeted. That's market mechanisms, and just from that alone, there's all these different reasons, and that's like one of the biggest reasons why people are so like not really afraid but hesitant to consider socialism, is because the entire world for almost entire human history has been like this, and it's so like inherent in our culture, in our ideology, that you can't even imagine a world without markets. Or without major, that everything is ruled by market mechanisms. That people have to make a profit, that businesses have to compete with each other, right? That you can't even see this thing, this concept as a standalone thing that has consequences. That people don't even think about this. It just gets accepted, and Africa is poor just because the people are corrupt. Why are they corrupt? Oh, because people are bad. No, it's because market mechanisms and the Western countries, right? They have a profit incentive to keep these people corrupt and keep these authoritarian dictators in power, and that will allow them to export their resources for cheap, for extremely cheap, like 1% of the normal price. Like that's not an official number, but you get what I'm saying, right? And if they don't, if there's a even like not even a fucking communist leader, but if there's a leader that says no, we're not gonna export these resources for super cheap. We're gonna nationalize everything, and we're gonna control themselves, and we're gonna be free. We're gonna be independent, not in your influence. Then they get fucking assassinated by CIA or France or Belgium even. That has happened ever since the colonial nations wanted freedom, right? And it has happened ever since. Even and not even only in Africa, also in India, also in Bangladesh, also in Indonesia, also in China, which also has like the same kind of a bit less recently and in modern times, but has also the same trade relations with the West. That's why the West is so rich and the other nations are poor, while actually the other nations have a lot more resources and people and food and everything, right? You understand that?
What you've explained to me is that market, what is it called again? Market systems?
Market mechanisms, or that's not like an official term, but like yeah.
Market mechanisms is a direct result of private property and a competitive economy. That they are a piece of the market. So, please turn back on. Sorry, my computer turns off every 5 minutes because I can't. I still don't know how to configure the settings to stop that. Okay, back to what I was saying. So you're saying that inherently, market mechanisms make an economy competitive. That is what you have said.
They make actors within that economy compete with each other. Yes.
Competitive.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm agreeing.
Okay.
If under a communist or socialist, who are these companies owned or controlled by? Let me ask you that.
Okay, that depends on how you define that term. How do you define that term?
The individual that directly runs or indirectly runs that
the workers,
system.
the people who work there.
Workers.
Yes.
Is that communism or socialism? Which one?
Okay. Now you're getting into a whole different topic because.
Do
you want me to explain the stages of?
I know that socialism is a step towards communism. Communism, yes. And communism itself is supposed to be a step towards Marxism. Is that my?
A communist society is a society without state, money, or class. So there's no major differences in what people own and who not, and there's so much overabundance and stuff, and if everything is being able to be produced without that, it actually needs to be like accounted for, right? But that's like far in the future.
Where does that overabundance come from, if I may ask?
And the thing is, we've almost already achieved it. Like with our current technology and our current productivity, we're producing too much stuff. The only matter of problem in our society is a problem of distribution, not production. In almost all sectors of the economy, we are already producing enough to easily sustain everyone, food, basic resources, everything, right? So in that aspect, we could already achieve communism, but it's only like a problem of distribution and organization, and probably with computers it's going to be much easier to easily allocate everything. Okay, and so between capitalism, what we have now, and that communist society is socialism, where the workers, the proletariat, have assumed power via revolution. So they're the ones who control the government and the state, right? So there's still a state with the police force and an army and stuff. Well, probably not a big army. And they control the economy democratically. And they own the means of production, which is businesses and factories and farms and that stuff, right?
Finish. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
But I've seen countries that have gone through their steps into socialism. The Soviet Union, after Stalin.
Okay, that's not true. The Soviet Union was never socialist. China? They've never achieved a socialist society.
No, they failed.
Yeah, because they have always had markets. They always had markets. China has always had markets. They've never been able to completely implement a society where the workers democratically own the means of production, and there are very little markets. Because no markets is also like not practical, but like very little markets as a percentage of the economy.
Not practical. But why is it so difficult?
Because some sectors like luxury products and stuff like that, it just doesn't make sense, and it's like not for the benefit of the society to just organize everything in that way. And if only like a small part of the society is able to be controlled by markets and obviously like regulated and stuff and democratically controlled via worker co-ops, but like they still have a profit incentive and whatever they still like have freedom, but there's no private property, no one owns businesses, right? Then there's still markets, right? Profit, if you want to make a profit and your business relies on you making a profit, and so your revenue is higher than your costs, then that's a market. Then if you have multiple businesses like that, then you have a market, right? You sell, you make products to be sold for a profit. That's markets. If only a small part of the economy is organized like that, that's no problem.
Do you feel like there is a country that has properly achieved socialism and then into communism?
The closest that's probably like been it is Cuba. The closest one, and because also what's the word? What you need for the workers fully owning the means of production is a democratic society, right? Is a democratic state, a democratic government and a way to control the means of production is by state ownership, right? And you need democracy in the state for the ownership to be also like indirectly be of the workers. And Cuba is pretty democratic, but the thing about Cuba is they have a lot of markets, and they have a lot of economic hardships, also greatly due to the embargo by the US. So they can't really like advance and develop their system very far, right? It takes a lot of they have a lot of problems, but they're probably the furthest, that's the closest gotten to fully socialist society.
How many communist countries are like left? Because I feel like there's not really that many left, right?
Actually, countries that are like actually honestly trying to achieve socialism. Like I think Cuba and maybe like a couple of others, but not really.
I'd say
Cuba is the only thing that I can really like think about and explain. The other ones I don't know.
Is North Korea communist?
No, not at all.
No?
They're like
no, bro. They wish
they're literally a monarchy.
The imperial Kim family. They're seen as gods.
Yeah,
No.
they're monarch. They're literally like the way their leadership works. It's a monarchy. Literally like from father to son.
Yeah, it's an autarkic monarchy. Autarky means like fully independent. They don't rely on anybody for anything. Or
they used to try after the revolution. They used to try to be socialist, but eventually they just isolated themselves and they just became corrupt and authoritarian.
Diluted. Yeah, everything got really diluted. I'd say remaining communist countries.
But do you like kind of understand? Yeah. No, Vietnam is also fully just capitalist. They're not even social democratic.
Do they switch because they like want to make like more money or something like that?
Well, a lot of them switch because they get cooped or get invaded or get in a war. And in the case of Vietnam, it was just like their ideological differences between China and them. So they just didn't really have any big allies. So eventually they just gravitated towards the US. That's literally it. And that means markets and privatization.
I appreciate if we could go on history on Vietnam. I appreciate how they saved what remained of Cambodia so bad that they had to step in. Communist country stepping in on another supposedly communist country. And Cambodia I appreciate. No, it was not.
They were more fascist than they were communist.
Yeah, it was terrible. If you spoke French, if you were of a minority, if you even that whole glasses thing, that's true. And the worst part is
that is also a result of the same kind of mob mentality like that happened in the Cultural Revolution, like where the people were so obsessed with this ideology of everything that's supposedly bourgeois, but when they don't even know what it actually means. Like these glasses, they were seen as like the rich scholarly elite. They had glasses, so everyone with the glass looked like them, so they all had to die. That's how that can happen.
The crazy part is Pol Pot himself was actually an ethics teacher before he he was an ethics teacher. That is the biggest, most ironic, horrific thing I've ever really. It's like the cruelest irony, right? This guy was teaching kids the right and wrong. A couple of years later, he was murdering those same kids by bashing their bodies in cloths against trees. He did that. He bashed babies against trees and stones to make sure that they didn't grow up and take their revenge. His words. It's disgusting.
Wow.
I'm not even joking. Reading it made me just sick. And not to mention also the killing fields. Do we know the killing fields?
No.
Oh, you worked until you died and in the agrarian society and your body was used as fertilizer. Or you were sent out to be executed and your body was used as fertilizer. He destroyed the National Bank and he moved to an agrarian society. He ejected everybody from the cities and from the towns and moved to that form of system of agrarianism. From there, that's when the killing fields started happening, which I just... I'm very grateful that Vietnam took one look at that and was like, oh, hell no. That's another thing that I respect Vietnam.
Also supported by the CIA, the Khmer Rouge. Funded and supported by the CIA. Also to oppose the communist Vietnam, then really communist Vietnam. Ideologically, and have another rival in the region.
CIA at this point needs to be shut down as a federal agency because
that's the thing. That's never gonna happen because the CIA is a tool to protect the USA's market interests.
There are multiple presidential candidates gaining support that will abolish the CIA. Robert F. Kennedy is one.
The thing about
the only problem with that is like, don't they have to like pass it through like a bunch of people?
Literally,
and,
what I
like,
was just gonna say.
Really,
the thing
really
about the U.S. political system is it's impossible to implement radical reform. Literally, because like first of all, the what's it called? You're with all the old people. I forgot the name. Where people are appointed for life.
Oh,
the
judicial. Yeah, what is it called?
It's the
Judge.
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court.
Supreme
Yeah,
Court,
that's what's called.
they just shut down everything because they're all a bunch of ghouls, neoliberal ghouls, right? There's literally no one to the left of center right there, no one. So there's never going to be anything progressive happening there, and they're only gonna protect market mechanisms because it's all in their interest. They're all fucking millionaires and billionaires in there.
That is a result of radicalization of both the Republican and Democrat parties further into their own. There is no center anymore because they are both divided into camps and factions. It's an us versus them mentality.
There's no democracy in the U.S.
I would not say that.
There's barely any democracy in the US. If you do actually poll the people on what they want, which policy they want to implement, and then you go and see what actually happens, the misalignment is crazy. It's like one of the worst countries that calls itself liberal democracy ever, and that's just because of the way the system is designed. And sure, you compared to Europe and other ways of with the electoral college and other ways to divide votes and stuff. Your system is worse, right? For to measure democracy on a democratic level compared to parliamentary democracies, semi-presidential democracies, right? But still, that there's never gonna be radical change because it's not in the interest of the people in power, and the people get put in power because the power is the powerful people that are in control of it. They control the funding for the campaigns. They control the media outlets. They control everything, right? So they control who even gets fucking nominated for the candidates for the party, for the president.
There's no versus them, and the division between this country is because of radicalism.
Sure. No,
it's because of the radicalization of both parties.
Okay, but what do you mean by radicalization?
Both parties have furthered into their own ideologies to a degree where.
Okay, what is the ideology of the Democratic Party?
The ideology of the Democratic Party is closely aligned to progressivism and the advancements of civil rights, liberties, and...
It's definitely not.
The civil rights movement was led by the... Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure, in the past, but...
Yes, in the 60s.
I'm talking about now.
Yes, now, after the radicalization. That is what happened. It was a
far from radical progressives. They're far from radical progressives. I agree with the us versus them mentality, but that's just a distraction to distract the people and don't make it able for them to vote on things that actually benefit the majority of the people's lives, which will eventually hurt the power of the ruling class. Which again, they do that because it's not in their market not in their interests, right? Because they have to, because otherwise they get outcompeted by other sectors, other people. It's literally not even because there's evil capitalists in the world and they want money. No, it's because they have to, because otherwise it's just they get outcompeted and they have to make a profit, right? It's not even any human actor that causes these bad things to happen. It's inherent to the system. They have to make those decisions. They have to do corruption because they can't otherwise they go bankrupt. Otherwise they fail. Otherwise they're not successful businessmen.
Can you give us some examples of those?
What do you mean?
Of what you think? No, I mean just as a basis.
Okay. So imagine that you're a big capitalist billionaire CEO of a big company, right? And there's one party, the Democratic Party, who wants to let's say the Republican Party, and they want to implement tax cuts for your sector. So eventually you're gonna have to pay less taxes, which means more profits, right? And then there's Democratic Party who just don't want to do that. They don't want to do anything radical else on the other side, but they just don't want those tax cuts. Who do you think is gonna and you have a lot of money to fund and campaigns and individual politicians and the media, and you have a big control of the media outlets and what gets say on there? Who do you think you're gonna be favorable towards? Which side? You're gonna support the Republicans. You're gonna fund the Republican media companies who are conservative. You're gonna fund campaigns of Republicans. And that's just an example. And the thing about how fucked up the U.S. how fucked up it now is that both parties are representative of the business interests of the big capital, right? Sometimes the Democrats come out and say, okay, we're gonna help the working class, because otherwise they just go under, because otherwise they don't have any footing. They have to be a bit different from the Republicans. But it's literally, in your country, it's just center right versus right wing. That's it. That's the radicalization.
the Democratic Party is not in any way anywhere nearly identical to the Republican Party. That is what
compared to but if you look at it from perspective in my country and literally the entire world that has parliamentary and just liberal democratic party elections and stuff, we all like. I'm not doing this. It's not like I'm not hating or anything. This is just like an observation. Everyone laughs at like the way American democracy is organized because it's just so trivial. Everything is so dramatized. Even the minute differences. While you're just the same. All the policies they differ very little. When people get into power, nothing changes. There's very little policy that gets implemented because they don't want to, and because they don't have to. That's the thing. They don't have to do that to stay in power or to be successful in the political landscape or to earn money, even.
When did this occur to the point where now the Democrat Party is just like the Republican Party? And they're both. When did they become under the thumb of big business? Can you tell me when that happened? Before the 20th century, before the 21st century.
But it's a slow progression, right? It's a slow development. The more power that capital has, the more power they got over the political spectrum. The thing is the same as here. That's not just in the U.S. It's everywhere, right? We're also it's covertly, it's not overt. It's via all these business relations, it's where the capital is concentrated because of the market mechanisms. Sorry, that they're able, or that they have to, is a better word, to invest in these certain sectors in the economy, these certain media companies, because it's the only thing they can do. And the more capital accumulates, the more power they have. And capital has been accumulating ever since the Industrial Revolution. Hence, the more power they had over government, and that's everywhere is the case, right?
I will say that I have extensive research into the American political system because, like everybody else, I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
The left is not like the right. Those two hate each other. Hate.
The Democrats are not left.
A Republican and a Democrat will literally. If you tell a Republican that you are a Democrat, then they will cut you off.
Yes.
They're not similar in any way.
I agree.
The left and the right are not similar.
You know why?
Any way.
You know why? Because that mentality shuts down debate and actual progressive and constructive conversation around policy. They just say, "Oh no, you're a Democrat, you're stupid. Oh no, I'm not going to listen to you." Like, they don't even have to say that overtly. That just automatically happens in people's brains. Okay, my voice is going really hurts. I need to hold on. I'm going to grab something to drink. Okay, 2 seconds.
Actually, I'll go do that as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get a little.
Everyone's just gonna drink.
Yeah, we're just gonna leave. We're gonna leave Mr. Krebs alone.
Actually, I'm gonna take a piss.
I loved our conversation, and I would like to come on again some other time. If you guys are communists to
I also, for other things, history, knowledge.
Yeah.
Sports in particular. I know a bit about sports, and
that I do not know about.
History of sports is interesting because, like, baseball, that was early 20th century in the USA, and how that got everywhere was really funny and interesting. It's a lot of basically just Americans just went everywhere around the world and like, hey, have you heard of this funny little sport called baseball? And now it's a national competition thing that's in the Olympics. It's funny because did you know soccer actually was a word developed in the UK, not the United States?
Damn, and they hate that word.
Yeah, now they hate it.
It's hilarious.
It's funny.
Soccer.
The history of sports. It's filled with like blunders that make it unique and make it what it is, I say.
Yep.
And that, of course, relates to communism.
Yes.
Because yes.
Well, I was gonna say, like, what is the reason that the U.S. went all over the world?
Travelers, people that finally thought, hey, maybe the rest of the world was nice. They visited, visitors and travelers and people that
they visited Iraq and they visited Afghanistan and they visited.
That's not even related to what. That's
I know. I'm just kidding.
Just visited with a couple weapons.
Yeah.
Just a cordial to have a debate like we do.
Al Qaeda situation. We propped that to fight the communists, and then they betrayed us because we kind of encroached on their territory. Middle East is a very bad situation.
Yeah, I don't even know what their political state is. I think it's just chaos.
Oh my God! You got a textbook, page 1 of 2032. It's a whole can of worms. I don't even want to touch. I love history just as much as the next guy, but I'm not touching the Middle East. You can leave that alone. Their political ideology and their religious fanaticism in nature is really messy, and they hate each other and everybody else, and just because of a bunch of bad series of circumstances.
And also a result of market mechanisms.
Both inside and outside of the country, because
Literally.
of splits of religious beliefs.
And the fight against communism also.
Yeah.
Because really, there were a bunch of communist like organizations and parties and revolutionary groups in pretty much every Arab and Islamic country, but because of like the oil that's there, the US has always had a big presence there, and of course we can't have communists in where we are. So then these people, the radicals, turn to other methods of
filtrants.
Yeah, struggle. And that's instead of left is right.
Because of the revolutionary ideals, the people regress into their religion as a safety from.
Yep.
Because many religion was suppressed in the Soviet Union. Many people knew that. It's not that communism did that. It's just what happened. Everybody knew that was happening, and so did the Arab nations. They love their religion, and they have a right to. And when they saw communists rising up in the country, they did anything. Even they hated the U.S. even before the communists. And
pretty much every anti-communist action, like after the Second World War, that's all instigated by CIA, and that's of course there's gonna be groups inside of the country that oppose communists, of course, but like they get funded by the CIA and they get propped up and they get there's pretty much never a overtly anti-communist power or fascists, which are also pretty much every time anti-communist overtly. That comes into power alone without like foreign influence.
Kind of like it's what I remember is the horseshoe theory, that you try to be so opposite of something, you kind of turn yourself around. It's an unfortunate result of regressing so hard into something to try and be the opposite of it. It's what happened, if I remember correctly, that it's one of the main reasons that I think Bolshevikism is what really was the Soviet Union. Bolshevikism is what we call it, right?
Bolshevism.
And Bolshevism.
No.
Sorry if I can't pronounce it right.
You kind of cut out, so I didn't really understand, or it was my internet, but I just wanted to make.
It sounds like bullshitism.
Bullshit. Well, there's a bit of bullshitism. It was fake communism, basically. It
kind
tried
of.
to present itself as
it was going good up until Stalin got into power, and then
he got all of his grubby fingers on it. By the time that it and sculpted into something that really was,
kind of.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. Also, by the way, he was a pedophile. By the way, if anybody
I don't think that's supported by evidence, but okay.
Stalin 13. Just look that up. If you
I don't think I want to.
Yeah, look that up if you want a good. Not
surprisingly, hearing he's a pedophile, like I feel like that's not like the worst thing he's done. Like I feel like he's done so many bad things that like it doesn't really make him worse.
Yeah, it kind of just adds to the list.
Yeah, it just adds. It just stacks.
Yeah, it's just like a pedophile. You kind of expect it at this point.
Put it on there.
Yeah, write it down. Now he's Stalin. You're on
the
list.
Santa. Well, they're both jolly big and red, and give 3 things to people. Oh, Santa was. Do you think Santa was a communist? Let's end that off.
Final question of the episode. Is Santa a communist?
He wears red. He's from a cold place. He gives things out for free to everyone.
He's
equally.
got a big working labor of a bunch of workers. He's a central figure. They love him like a father, like they did with other communist leaders, and he did give free things to people. So I'd say, yeah. I think That's a real who we really if communism is to take over, that's who we should have as our leader.
Except he's promoting all those Coke bottles. So like I think he's transitioning to the other side.
No,
maybe
we're
he's
losing him.
anarcho-capitalist. Santa's anarcho-capitalist.
I'm taking him from you. I'm taking from you, Kieran. He's now mine. He's mine. He's my dirty capitalist.
You transferred Santa.
I'm good with voices, so that's how I'm able to.
Can you give us another Santa impression there?
Just say oh oh oh.
Oh ho ho! I'm gonna provide with free presents around the world. About $2 billion later, buy Coke, buy Coca-Cola, buy it now.
Yeah, I mean, how do you think he gets all that money for those toy materials?
Yeah, all
man?
those toys. He's got to get it somewhere.
He sells out.
Maybe because, like, who knows? Maybe the South and North Pole got hella resources, and he's an export economy. That could be. I mean, he is technically an export economy because he exports toys.
Oil.
Oh no! Don't let the U.S. know that. Yeah, the communist country's got oil.
The North Pole has weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah. Screw Bush. He was that creepy old man. I don't like him. And well, at least he's not Joe Biden. Joe Biden's worse. Not necessarily on the warmongering part, but on the creepy old man part.
What's wrong with Joe Biden? Yeah. He's a great president.
There's a lot of little children.
Dude, I honestly, I have not listened to a single Joe Biden speech where I'm like, I understood all of that.
Yeah, bro yaps. It's not in a way that we can comprehend. He's thinking on a whole. He's either not thinking at all, or he's thinking on a whole nother level, and you can't tell the difference.
I at least understood Trump. I feel like they're going like in backwards of like cognitive ability.
The thing is, Trump, one of the best things, that he excelled at was getting under his opponent's skin. He knew how to get the other guy riled up and angry and make mistakes and blunder. But the fact is, he couldn't get under Joe Biden's skin because anything he said went through one ear and out the other. Good luck knocking on the door with a guy who's not even home. Yeah, there's no one in there. There's no one home, so you're not going to be able to really rile this guy up. He's like he's like Trump's kryptonite.
Joe Biden was like, what?
To even give a shit about what Trump says.
Chocolate chip.
You know, Santa was based off of real dude, Saint Nick.
That's the saint. Yeah.
Wait,
what?
We love him.
It's a big, big holiday. It's a big holiday in Belgium and Netherlands. Sinterklaas, Saint Nicholas.
Sinterklaas, I've actually heard of that, right?
Yeah, it's a different holiday on the 5th and the 6th of December, where you also get presents. But we have two Christmases actually, kind of.
Lucky son of a bitch!
That's crazy.
Yeah, of course.
The beginning of December and the end.
The Europeans got on here flexing.
Do you get like days off from like school?
I don't know actually. I don't know. I don't think so. For Christmas, but Christmas is usually in like the vacation period, right?
Yeah.
So, but I don't think for Sinterklaas we have a vacation, because there's also usually with school you like go on a trip and there's an actor Sinterklaas and you get candy at school.
How long has this Sinterklaas existed?
It's the original Santa. That's where Santa comes from.
It dates back to like the 1800s. Yeah.
All right, so it must have originated from.
I think the Christmas was taken from like that or something like that.
I didn't know that. Okay, I'm gonna say this. I've got a friend. His name is Marcus. He's from Scotland. He lives in the United Kingdom. What is up with your plug socket situation, bro? What is up with Europe's plug socket situation?
That they have different than ours. The UK,
France,
the
UK.
Do you just generalize all of Europe, you American?
Yeah, UK is different. UK wants to be as different as possible from Europe, so they also have different sockets.
Oh my god! He sent me a picture of his plug socket and what it looked like. Hey, what the fuck is that?
I have the same sockets as France, as Netherlands, as Germany, as Spain. We all have the same ones.
I have noticed that even parts of Eastern Europe and Western Europe, they somewhat centralized it into a single plug socket, and then you have the UK wants to be so different. Hold on, let me save the. He sent it to me on Discord, so let me save this image and let me show you the monstrosity that I.
But aren't ours way better because we have grounding? We have three. Usually, or you can have two, but we have oftentimes 3 pins with grounding. Isn't that safer?
Look at this.
Yeah, those are monstrosities. That's fucked.
What
also,
is that?
It looks like a ghast. It's a Minecraft gas.
No way.
Minecraft. That's Steve. That's Steve. That's literally Steve.
No, it's like the. Bro.
Oh my God! It is. It literally is.
Yeah.
It's like, bro.
But like we have
The
these.
United Nations is useless, but can you guys at least come up with a solution of a? Yeah,
We
because
have
I've seen those. That makes sense because like different designs can go into the same slots.
Yep.
Where it somewhat works. But what is the UK doing?
They want to be different, man. They want to be different as possible.
You want to visit.
Yeah,
You want to visit another country, but you can't do shit because like you can't charge any of your items. That'd be so inconvenient.
Yeah, man.
I didn't even know that was like a thing until now. Like I didn't know they had different charging plugs.
I learned because he sent me a picture of his bedroom. I was like, what the fuck is that up against? What is your plugs? He showed where in the picture it was his plug. And he's like, he broke his charger, and he showed me his charger, and it was like semi broke. And here's the picture, and he was just showing me.
At least I know in case I ever travel internationally.
Yeah, you gotta get your own.
Yeah, you need an adapter.
If you just he showed me this picture because he was trying to show me like all of his setup, all the plugs, and then if you notice, you look at it and you can see like, wait a minute, that's not right. Because how is it gonna? I noticed that looking at his plugs, you can see that it's different. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, and then he showed me what it looked like unplugged, and I'm like, oh my Lord Jesus H Christ!
That looks like a mess.
What the hell? It is a mess. They are a mess. It's all a mess.
Yeah, everything is a mess.
For Britain.
But aren't like your American plugs, aren't they like very loose? Because whenever I imagine plugging something, I've never plugged in something in an American plug, but they're just like outside. There's no hole. There's no incave, right? So usually
it's all right. So this is a plug
like that.
from America.
Yeah.
Okay, but they have grounding. That's nice.
You don't notice, but ours works with ridges. There's small ridges.
That's right. There's the holes in the thing.
That's right. That's how ours work. We just
we don't have that.
It's very basic, but it gets the job done. You know, we're basic. We're basic. It's basic America.
Yeah.
Ridges. Everybody we improvise.
Ladies
we have a
and gentlemen,
centralized.
I think that's
Our
gonna wrap
plug
up.
sockets are centralized. That's my one up. Our plug sockets are centralized. Take that, Europe.
I'll try to transition into the outro here. It's kind of tough.
Okay.
But,
Yeah. All right. Goodbye.
Let's plug our sockets into this outro, I guess. Wow.
That did not work.
Hey, yo.
That did not work.
A fantastic debate. It's interesting.
Yeah, this has been a great episode.
Perspectives from around the world. And any final words from Curbs?
For me,
yeah.
Good job.
Go on there, crab boy. Dance, Rush.
Say the line, Curbs.
Oh yeah. Have a good night. I forgot that's like a catchphrase.
Everybody say have a good night.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Or for him.
What is this like? This is like Disney XD, bro.